Good evening. It is Monday, June 2nd. And this is a meeting of the Southborough Planning Board. The planning board is now in session. I don't have my little hammer. That's okay. Yeah. The first item on the agenda is a discussion item. No. Oh, how do I shut that off?
Oh, no, you know, that's fine. Okay, now you should.
The first item on the agenda is a discussion item. Welcome to our new planning board member, Al Belniak. Welcome aboard. Second item on the agenda. Oh, that sounds better. Planning board organization. So every year after the elections, we re-elect a chair and a vice chair. Does anyone have a motion?
I make a motion that we reappoint Mimi as chair for the coming year.
Second?
Happy to do it unless someone else wants to take over. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell abstain.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Belniak, yes.
And a vice chair.
I make a motion for Marnie Houlihan to be vice chair for the coming year for planning board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Houlihan abstain.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Belniak, yes.
Congratulations, Marnie. The next item on the agenda is the yearly planning board appointment and recommendations to the select board. So the first is the deed research subcommittee. Jesse had indicated that he would be willing to continue. And then I think we need someone from the Open Space Commission. I don't know, I can send a email to the Open Space Preservation Commission and see if they want to appoint somebody to this, because it was a, right.
Did we reach out to her again this year? Did she change her mind? We'll reach out to Freddie and see if she wants to, if she can recommend somebody, or do you want it?
Or yeah, reach out to Freddie and just, as if she's still chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission, and see if there's someone on the committee, because it was a planning board Open Space Preservation Commission project.
Okay.
So should we appoint Jesse Stein to the Deed Research Subcommittee, term to expire 6/30/26?
Oh, the new one.
So you just made the motion. Second?
Yes. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Brashear, yes.
Dukenyak, yes.
The Master Plan Implementation Committee. So we have Sam Stivers, Debbie Demaria is the Planning Board rep, William Warren. This says Judith Watson, but she has indicated that she does not want to be reappointed. He did. Debbie, let me ask, does the committee require a select board?
No, no, it's not in our charge.
Oh, it's not?
No,
So it's just 5 members?
I believe so. Oh, yeah.
That's weird because when I was on select board, I was on it as a select board rep. And then when I left and came to planning board, Sam got on it. So no, it's just, I had the same question, Mimi, and I just looked at the roster of committee members and it doesn't say select board. So I don't know why we would have continued to appoint select board to it.
So let me just look, I'm looking, I have a charge of duties and we don't specify.
He did indicate that he wanted to be reappointed if possible, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, we've made changes to the charge, the charge over the last couple of years, but it does not specify.
Oh, okay. So if Sam wants to be reappointed, I'm fine with that. There are 2 vacancies. Maybe we can reach out to the select board and see if there's someone on the select board that would like to be.
I'd like to offer that maybe another planning board member might like to join.
That was the next thing I was going to ask.
Okay, I will. In all honesty, Alan and I have had some great conversations. He's called, over the time, most recently over the last year, to just ask, some of the members at various things. And I've had great conversations with you, Alan. I really like his enthusiasm and I was really hopeful that he might want to join or even plan to stop by from time to time. So I just wanted to offer that if Alan would like to take the position, I'd be happy to offer it.
Thank you, Debbie. Yes, we did discuss it and I've thought about it since our last chat. My initial concern was understanding the time constraint and being able to devote the right amount of time versus not enough time. And so I've thought about it and it's something I'm willing to take on if everyone else is.
Sold.
Wow, that's awesome. You didn't tell me that. That's great. I'm happy for that. Now, so the question is, can there be a second planning board member?
So if,
Should we have a member of the public? I don't think we've entertained this.
well, I don't think, if it's just 5 members, I don't think there's a problem with that. And I don't think it hurts because it is the master plan is under the planning board's purview.
So in that case, then I'd like to stay.
Oh, yeah, we weren't letting you go.
Oh, okay. Oh.
So can I make a motion to reappoint Sam Stivers, Deb Demiria, William Warren, and appoint Alan Belniak to Master Plan Implementation Committee for 1 year, which would expire 6/30/26.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashear, yes.
Dukenyak, abstain.
Okay, maybe check with select board and see if they, do you think that is that we should try and see if they want someone on the select board? So the next is appointments of the select board. The planning board rep to the CPC, it's currently Lisa Braccio. Would you like to continue in that?
I would. I'm currently chair too. So I think with the transition of Ben, it would be good if I could stay.
I make a motion to reappoint Lisa Braccio, thank you, to the Community Preservation Committee for 3 years as a recommendation to the Select Board appointments. sorry,
It says three.
for 3 years, so would expire 6/30/28. Is that right?
Second that?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, abstain?
Bellniak, yes?
The next is the Metro West Regional Collaborative. I'm currently the appointee. Those are meetings on the last Thursday or the second to last Thursday of the month, usually on Zoom. I'd be happy to continue unless somebody else wants to.
Thank you. I make a motion to reappoint Mimi Latrell for the Metro West Regional Collaborative MWRC for a 1-year commitment as the planning board rep, expires 6/30/26.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Bellniak, yes?
Thank you for your confidence. MAPC for the term of 2 years. Currently, Debbie DeMaria is on, and there is a vacancy. And from what I can tell, it doesn't, the collaborative requires a planning board rep and a select board rep. MAPC just says an appointee and an alternate. So if somebody else on the board wants to. Yeah,
I just wanted to give reference to that section, Mimi's Mass General Laws, Chapter 40B, Section 24. And I agree. I don't think alternate means actually your role is diminished in any way.
you may not be able to vote, but I don't know how
One might
often
not
you
be able to
vote.
vote, and maybe it requires some coordination.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to have 2 members, by the way, because we haven't had 2 members. There's, like, for example, the meeting next week is in Boston, and I know that I'm not going to be able to make that. And there's just times then, it's good to have a second person. For the second position, I am interested, but if others are interested, and Alan, I wanted to ask you if you have interest as well.
So I do have an interest, but much like you, depending on the particular day and meeting, if it's in a location that I can't get to because of a work meeting, et cetera, then it might be a challenge. I think the last one was in Braintree on like a Thursday at 2, which is not really compatible with the schedule that I have.
Or ever to get there from here.
Leave at 9 a.m. to make sure you show up on time.
Yeah,
So I guess I have an interest. I don't know well enough about how often they meet. How often does MEPC meet?
Quarterly.
Quarterly?
And there's there's also ways to, I just say there's ways to get involved because they offer a lot of courses and, participation, things that you can participate in. Yeah.
So I'll express interest. I know you currently have the open seat or the current seat, so I'll express interest.
so can anyone go to those meetings? I know like the collaborative, there's an appointee from select board and planning board, but I know Leah used to go a lot and Bill Cundiff and anybody can go. Karina's.
I don't know the answer to that. I know that anybody from MAPC can sit on the collaborative, can dial in and, participate in the collaborative, at least listen in.
Well, anyone can go to collaborative meetings.
Anybody. I don't know the answer to that.
Oh,
I've not asked that. Yeah. I have asked the question about the 2 seats, which we know. I would just say, because I had a little bit of a rough year last year, they kind of forgot about me. So I didn't get to participate in all the meetings. I would like to remain, for at least, the next term. Just because, we have to also make sure that the select board send the letter to MAPC, because I think that's what happened last year. So I missed a couple or 1 or 2 meetings actually because of that. So I am interested, Alan, if you really would like it, I don't mind, but I think I'd like to stay on it.
I don't take any slight that you're interested, and I think from what Mimi was saying, if there's opportunities for other members to participate, maybe not vote, then I'll I'll explore those opportunities and then we'll have, 3 heads versus 2 versus 1 to offer up input. So
That sounds great.
So I'm happy to step back. Like and I think we, for 3 planning board members, it would consider, if we went, it's be an open, it'd be a quorum. So I think, I'm happy to step back. And I think if you have enthusiasm, embrace it before you get tired. So I'm gonna say I would advocate for you to take the role if you're really interested.
duly noted.
So I will make a motion to reappoint Deb Demuria to MAPC for 2 years and appoint Alan Belniak for 2 years with a term expiring 6/30/2027.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Belniak abstain.
Next is the 21 Highland Street Future Use Committee. Currently, Lisa Braccio is the planning board. Are you the planning board rep on there or just on there?
Planning board rep, I believe.
Okay. And would you like to continue with that?
Yeah, so we're at the point where we're getting ready for a public forum. And one of the things that's kind of holding it up at this point, we're supposed to have a report by 6:30, is waiting to hear what potentially could happen with Neary and Finn, which would play a role into if we were going to dispose of the building. So we're going to ask the select board for additional time to extend the charge, maybe another 6 months, just so we can wait and see what happens at town meeting, whatever the decision is. But we're at the stage where we've done an open house and people have walked the building and we're getting ready for a forum. So I would like to continue. I think it might be tough for someone else to jump in at this phase.
Thank you, Lisa. I make a motion to reappoint Lisa Braccio for 21 Highland Street Future Use Committee until the term or the committee, is it a 1 year? But we don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll say till 6/30/2026.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brascio abstain?
Belniak, yes.
Very good. The next item on the agenda is a discussion item, 96 Mount Vickery, Ruby Estates Covenant Extension Request. Karina, you want to bring us up to date on this one?
There. Do we have, Michael Bartolini in the waiting room? Like, is that you in the waiting room?
Yeah, that's me. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So earlier this year, so this is regarding 96 Mount Vickery, Ruby Estates. It's a new subdivision that was permitted a couple of years ago. And there was a covenant as part of the subdivision, which expires after 2 years. So that time frame came up and previously the covenant to complete construction is slated to expire on June 11th, 2025. So earlier in the year, Mike Bartolini came forward and was asking, what do we need extensions for? Because the Permit Extension Act came through. And anything from January 2023 to January 2025 would get an automatic 2-year extension. So he also has a special permit for lower impact development, which was automatically extended, and town council said, we didn't really have to do anything for that. Some towns codify it with a letter to the registry, but town council said it wasn't necessary. And at the time, he thought I was just talking about the lid as an extension, but it was the covenant as well. A covenant doesn't apply under the Permanent Extension Act to get extended because it's an instrument. He said it's a recorded instrument and not a permit, so to speak. So I let Mike know right away that unfortunately, when I told him he was all set, sorry, you have to come back. And luckily, we had enough time because June 11th is the expiration. And so he's requesting to extend 2 years, right, Mike?
Yeah, just to the same date as to the same dates as the lid and the definitive.
Correct. And it's for a time for completion of construction within the subdivision to extend from the prior expiration date of June 11th, 2020, for a 2-year period to and including June 11th, 2027. And all the conditions of the approved subdivision decision dated from 2021 remain in effect. And they have started construction. So, you know, they began excavation of the roadway and the stormwater management components like the detention basins. And we've had niche engineering out there along with our town engineer, Caitlin Cervello, who's monitoring different aspects of it. And then also we have the DPW has PAR Engineering contracted to inspect the water line installations on a full-time basis. So when they're doing water lines, they'll be out there. So that's the scoop.
Very good. Hi, Mike, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
You will.
Or is there any discussion on the board, first of all?
I just have one comment. The first line says planning board voted unanimously, and then the vote is open. I guess that's assuming we're going to vote 5 for 5, but I just don't
Yeah.
know if that word unanimously should be in there. I don't particularly care, and I don't have anything against this, just calling it out.
So this is a draft.
Mhm.
And what happens
okay.
is it's just to read the motion and
Are-
whatever gets voted, we change this tomorrow. Or
Okay.
we can go do it really quickly before you leave and then so it gets signed tonight. And Colleen is a notary.
Okay, thank you.
We'll edit it quickly.
So when you vote against it, it'll get changed. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
I make a motion to extend the 96 Mount Vickery Road Ruby Estates covenant extension from the prior extended expiration date of June 11th, 2025 for a 2-year period to and including June 11th, 2027.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Bellniak, yes?
All right. Excellent. So Mike will complete this form and have the planning board members sign it and Colleen will notarize it. And then we'll file it with the town clerk. Then you can pick up an attested copy at the town clerk's office. And I think it's the $10 fee. And then you can record this as required.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the ADU bylaw. So as we all sadly know, it failed at town meeting. And I had asked whether we want to bring it back. If we want to bring it back for November, we should start working on it. So my initial thought was to just update the code so it complies with state law, that we have a definition of accessory dwelling unit in our code, that accessory apartments is stricken, and we update the special permit to reflect the ADU, and then add that as a by right use, the 50% of gross floor area or 900 square feet. Or bring the bylaw back in some form, which is the question I asked tonight. Ms. Houlihan.
Thanks. I think that we should probably, as much as we try to simplify it for town meeting, I don't think even if we bring it back, it'll be simplified. I think it'll be interpreted. So I think we just kind of do the administrative component of it to make sure that the ADU by right comes in and our special permit language is in sync with that. So that would be my recommendation. I'd also be willing to take that first draft.
Mr. Maria.
Yeah, I very much agree. Last time we met, I was sort of on the fence and I had been looking at other towns to see, you know, what kind of little tweaks and changes they were making if they passed them. And you know, some of the ones that passed the ADU like definitions early, you know, have made some little tweaks, but I guess I stopped in last week, talked to Karina and asked, you know, if we know of any ADUs that have been, you know, by right since we passed at town meeting. And I guess I'm willing to wait and see how it goes. I don't think it's the right time right now. I do agree, though, the administrative part has to get done. There needs to be a cleanup. But taking it on again, I don't think, I think there's other ways that we can spend our time. So just cleaning it up would be my support too.
Ms. Brascio.
Thank you. So I was and am in favor at some point and potentially bringing it back. I think the administrative is definitely the way to go. I think people are really wrapped up in what's going on with the school right now, that it's really hard for people to, this is very detailed, and I think it's really hard for people to grasp that when their focus is on something bigger, I guess you could say. So I would be fine with the administrative, and I don't see that piece having any issues passing at town meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Bellier.
Thank you. I echo the concerns about clearing up the language. I do think people were confused. If I recall, that was much of the debate. People, well, does this mean this? Does that mean that? So clarification of language, I support. Administrative, I support. I think there was also, if I recall, a discussion or someone seeking clarity about who has the ultimate say, where does it go, who ends up signing off. So that part should probably be reviewed as well. But other than that, I'm for ADUs in general.
So if we just did the administrative cleanup, things would stay the same. So currently, it doesn't even mention the by right. It only mentions the special permit and refers to it as accessory apartment. And the process there is that the proponent comes to the planning board for a report and then goes to the ZBA for the special permit. And if the ZBA does not take the recommendations of the planning board in their issuance of the special permit, they need to explain why. So that would just stay the same, just the terms would be changed. And then it would be added. And there would be a by right use added.
Okay, I thought I recall from the town meeting that the eventual permit granting authority would flip back to planning board versus
Correct.
saying,
So that the bylaw that we proposed was, instead of having it be the two-step process, just have it be the abbreviated site plan for the by right through the planning board, and then the special permit through the planning board.
okay, I'll go back and read that for just, I'm confused a little bit myself, but I'll go back and read that.
Yeah, so there was a lot of discussion at town meeting that had to do with that, with the site plan review before the planning board. And our feeling was that when the proponent comes to the planning board, that's what we're doing, an abbreviated site plan. We're looking at the site, we're looking at parking and, you know, how it fits, and which is kind of a site plan review, although not a formal one. And then they have to go to the ZBA. So our thinking was that it would just simplify it if they just come here to the planning board and be done with it, because the planning board does site plan review, not zoning board. And then the other thing was the short-term rental seemed to cause a lot of confusion. But I had a difficult time taking what message was being sent, because there were two amendments. One was to remove the planning board as the site plan granting authority, and that failed. And then the other one was to remove the prohibition on the short-term rental, and that failed. And then the special permit bylaw failed. So I don't know what to take from that. So my feeling is to just leave everything the same, just update the code so it complies with state law. So if somebody's, right now, if they're looking through the code, they think the only way to do an accessory apartment is through a special permit. There's no reference to it under a by right use. And then maybe when people are used to these terms, then maybe go back and do something with the bylaw. So as it is now, short-term rentals are allowed and they will continue to be allowed. It hasn't been an issue, although in places it has been. And my feeling of the prohibition of that was that these were meant to be housing, more affordable housing units, but short-term rentals are not housing. And in a lot of places where there are more touristy areas, they've caused a big problem in removing all kinds of rental units from the market, and people like working in hospitality can't find housing. So that was my thought on that. But we can, it seems like we want to just do the administrative update and then we can think about more at a later date. Okay, very good. And I've started some notes that I'll pass on to you. Oh, the other thing was that right now we have special permit for accessory apartment in the industrial park district. And that makes no sense to me. So I did write on my little notes to remove that, and they're allowed in every other district.
Amy, I just want to say, I'm still interested to understand more about streamline, how we could streamline the process for people. We had somebody here, was either Central Street or Winter Street, a special permit for an accessory apartment. And I asked her when she came, how was your experience, she told me she had to go to, all these different steps that she had to take. I think it's still worth it to try to look at that in the future to see if we can streamline the process, whether it's for ADUs or something else, because we're doing the same thing on signs and other things where both boards are doing the work. I totally agree. Planning board is the site plan permitting authority, and I think that we, should take a closer look at that. And also, I think we had been speaking previously on this board that we've had a consultant look at that and look at the streamlining across, our zoning code to make it easier for people. I think in general, we should be involved in that kind of stuff.
Maybe a discussion item for 623.
And Marnie, if you need any assistance, you just give me a call. We have all the old files. I did archive some of the Dropbox, but a couple meetings back, I have the old documents.
The next item on the agenda is discussion item, subdivision rules and regulations update. So the reason this is here, they have not been updated since 1986.
Wow.
And the building commissioner has found some issues with the way the depth of pavement requirements and what did I say? Oh, sorry. The DPW superintendent has found some issues with some technical things that aren't up to what's required now, which may have been the standard in 1986, but evidently things have changed. So he has started sending his opinion. I have a couple emails from him on pavement and something else. Also, there, other little things that requires plans on tracing paper. I don't think that's applicable anymore. So just some little things. So I wanted to ask the board if they thought that that was a worthy endeavor to update the.
Mimi, when were you thinking of your time frame in doing this?
Well, over time, because Bill said that he prefers to do this one step at a time because he's got a lot going on. So, and this does not require town meeting. This is just a hearing before the planning board, so we can do that at any time.
Okay, thank you.
That was my question as well. If Bill's looking for another set of hands or anything like that, I'm willing to jump in and have conversations or help him or whatnot. I've been working with him on the wastewater study committee and just a little bit of my background. So if the board's willing to have me help out, I'm willing to do that.
Do you want to work the two of you, or do you want to just Okay.
Marty, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were already doing that. I'm,
Okay, so Alan, I'll send you what Bill has sent me so far.
okay, thank you.
And also, I keep a file. I keep a file of Bill's comments on how to improve the rules and regulations for chapter 244. And the other thing is that planning board has a policies and procedures kind of document. It's called actually the procedures and rules and regulations, like for example, how town consultants get paid and how you pick them.
Is that under subdivision?
No, it's a separate one, but I think we should consider it also at some point, because what we want to do is with subdivisions that are up and coming now, that are slated to become public roadways. DPW Director Bill Cundiff wants to make sure that the materials that are used for the gravel underneath the paving and the paving itself is tested. So we've started requiring the developers to provide a retainer funding for soils testing and paving testing, to do samples so that we can enhance the longevity of the paved roadways. There's a lot of roadways that are falling apart, and it may be because some of this testing hadn't been done in the past. So we want to kind of do that up front now. We don't get subdivisions very often, but when they do come up, that's the goal. And we kind of want to incorporate that into that funding language that tells people what the process is, tells developers, this is what you can expect. So we'll work on that too. Just giving you
Okay.
kind of
Alright.
related to that. with subdivision.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 10 Turnpike Road Storage Facility Modification to Site Plan Approval. Karina?
So they've requested an extension, a continuance to the June 23rd meeting with deadline for the planning board to act extended to the 27th of June without testimony. 2 meetings ago, we had good discussion with them regarding some things that they still have to complete and update and lighting, et cetera. So they're still working on that, but they have been in contact with us, reaching out and signing the extensions ahead of time. So there is an extension right here.
And also, um, their first meeting was 4/28. They continued without testimony on 5/12 and then again today. So Alan and I had a discussion, and he would like to participate because he can do the Mullins form for the 4/28 meeting that he missed, and no testimony doesn't require participation. So, and we ran it through town council, and he said that wasn't a problem. So we were going to, pose the question to the proponent, make sure there was no issue, and then Alan was going to participate.
And to clarify, Alan did provide a Mullins form that was filed with the town clerk, saying that he viewed the prior hearing that you missed. So he should be good to go when the next meeting.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So I make a motion to continue the public hearing for 10 Turnpike Road Storage Facility Modification and Major Site Plan Approval to June 23rd at 7 PM.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashear, yes.
Belniak, yes.
I make a motion to extend the decision due date for 10 Turnpike Road Contractor Facility Modification to MSPA to June 27th, 2025.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashear, yes.
Belniak, yes.
Good. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 250 Turnpike Road Contractors Yard Major Site Plan Approval and Special Permit for Lower Impact Development. Karina, can you bring us up to date?
Good evening. How's everyone doing today?
Okay. Back here. All right, so at our last meeting on May 12th, there was discussion about some additional landscaping to provide the buffer for the residential zone that's flooded. And I was out on Friday, but you provided a PDF and on submission number
7.
Number 7, yes, and so we don't have hard copies yet. So as soon as you submit that, then I can review them and get them out to the board and the departments.
Yes, George Bonan on behalf of the applicant FD 250 Turnpike LC. To that point, Karina, I think it would probably do us well if I was able to have a little bit of your time during office hours just to go over the PDF I sent you, make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed before I print everything and we make a final submission to the board if you wouldn't mind.
No, not at all. Just let's pick a time. If you call me tomorrow morning,
Will do.
and we'll pick a time when I have my calendar in front of me.
Absolutely.
What do you think, about an hour?
Yeah, hopefully less.
Maybe more. All right. We also received, at the April 28th meeting, there were comments from, Open Space Preservation Commission Chair, Freddie Gillespie, regarding, native species, and plants, related to that. And I think it was, forwarded to you as well. She had provided some feedback for you in your selecting of.
Correct. I believe it was in reply to a question I had about native species, and she was very helpful in directing me as to the list.
All
I
right.
think, as I recall, the species were right on
They
the
were right
last
on.
one.
They were right on.
Yes, it is submission 7. So as soon as you get that, we'll look at it and then you can make official submission.
Fantastic.
Anything else?
One last thing I want to let the board know, if you recall at the last hearing, Chair Luttrell, you had pointed out an access drive behind the self-storage building. That is actually, I wanted to be very transparent with the board and this predated me, so I was just unsure how to answer, but that is meant for vehicles to go up and down. It's already been included as part of a notice of intent submission. It was approved by Concom already, and that's why we were able to clear away any vegetation that was in the way. But it is meant to have vehicles go up and down it because it leads to a hung door, just a regular door in the basement. But we want people and servicemen that service the utilities to be able to back their trucks down to the basement door and unload and load large boxes or tools without having to go into the front of the building, take the elevator down. So that was the purpose of it. I was intending on providing a memo with this next submission and attaching the order of conditions, showing you that it Concom specifically approved an additional driveway and that it references plans that show the proposed access drive.
Thank you. All set?
Yes.
Ms. Houlihan?
Yeah, just a point of clarity. This was the conversation that we said, let's not market access drive. Like
Correct.
that was that behind the building on this line, like on the zone. Is that what we're talking about? Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. No more questions.
Mr. Maria?
Okay, thank you for coming in. I don't have any questions for you tonight.
Ms. Braccio?
Thank you for coming in. No questions. Thank you.
And Mr. Belniak cannot participate because he's missed more than one meeting. So to be clear, that is 4 vehicles.
That is for
not- It
vehicles,
was
yes,
discussed, it was pedestrian access, but that's not,
correct.
okay, all right. And um, so if a plan's ready to be submitted, do we need anything else? I think niche was pretty
Yeah, I think
much
it was
finished.
Finished.
So I don't think we need,
Right, it was just the lingering landscaping and some minor comments from the last meeting.
Yeah,
Um,
there were a few changes I made to the site plan per our discussions, and so it's not just landscaping, but there were some.
the septic system, did you have to move?
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was encroaching. That has been moved. If you recall, there was a missing arrow pointing to the sign that
Oh, yeah.
Right.
warned vehicles coming into the site of people backing out of the spaces. An additional handicap space closer to the contractor's yard building. There may be 1 or 2 other things. I can't recall them off the top of my head, but there were some changes made to the site plan.
And I believe we granted the waivers.
Correct.
Yep.
we did that at the last,
Mhm.
not all of them, but the ones we granted.
The loading zone has been removed per your waiver approval.
Okay. So does the board think it needs to go back to niche for these little cleanup things? Because most of their last comments were on the waivers, and it's up to the planning board.
Yep.
And then that septic system, there was one little corner still within the 100. I think we can figure out if it's not in there anymore. Yeah, so we'll probably be all set for the 23rd. Then I just wanted to make sure we had the time and we wouldn't be back in the same situation. Okay,
And also I'll try to get draft decisions
Mhm.
so that we can look at them already. No guarantee, but I'm going to try.
That would be great. Thank you, Karina.
Okay, so I will make a motion to continue the public hearing for 250 Turnpike Road, Contractor's Yard Building, Major Site Plan Approval, and special permit for lower impact development, the lid, to 7:05 PM on 6/23/2025.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
I make a motion to extend decision due dates for 250 Turnpike Road, Contractor's Yard Building, Special Permit lid, and 250 Turnpike Road, Contractor Yard Building, MSPA, extension to June 27th, 2025.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Very good, thank you.
See you the 23rd.
And give me a call tomorrow.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Karina.
Okay, the next item on the agenda. Oh, my computer says 7:20, but that doesn't. What do we go by? Okay. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows, major site plan approval, special permit low impact development, and special permit for major residential development, flexible development.
Yeah, that's unusual, no disrespect. Did you already open for us or do you need a minute? Okay, I'll give you the moment. Okay, sure.
Rena's going to bring us up to date.
All right, so the last public hearing was on May 12th. There was an extension signed to continue the meeting to this evening with a deadline for action to June 6th. That was filed with the town clerk. Previously, you had submitted some response comments, Peter, that did not go to Fuss and O'Neill because we didn't have the revised
Correct.
plans yet. So, on May 30th, on Friday, we received a PDF and also, submission number 5, which included, a cover letter to the planning board with comments, site plans dated May 20th, and a hydrogeological assessment and water balance calculation report. I have vetted the PDFs match the hard copies. They've been distributed, submission 5 has been distributed to the planning board members. They will go out to Fuss and O'Neill tomorrow morning
Okay.
for their review. They've already gone to the Conservation Commission, and Conservation Commission has already forwarded them to Fuss and O'Neill as well. And I believe they're the same plans,
Yeah.
correct? So they'll already get a taste of what's coming.
Okay.
And if you recall at the last meeting, I think there were some changes and comments that the planning board had regarding the easement, the open space easement,
Right.
et cetera, and some figures that had to be matched.
Correct.
That's where we're at.
Very good. Thank you, Karina. Welcome, Mr. Bemis.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. Peter Bemis, Engineering Design, here on behalf of 39 Pine Falmouth and William and Christine Poutre. So you did get the packet. I was giving it to you this evening, so I don't expect you to even understand any of the documentation that's there. But trust me when I say that when we met last, you asked for certain things to be done, and we tried to deliver those. So it's a comprehensive hydrogeologic assessment, water balance calculation with proper referencing, like it's a research paper, because that's the way we thought we should treat this. So you've got the documentation, you've got the backup, and you've got the assessment from the hydrogeologic perspective, and then the hydrology on the water balance. A lot of the water balance calculations are theoretical. We typically look at those on much larger regions than a real microscope like this would be. You'd be doing this on a much broader base. But the assessment is requested as part of the LID, and we took a good crack at it. Essentially on water balance, the only delta is the fact that we consume water supply from municipality. If nothing is withdrawn from the ground at that location, and you put it back into the ground. So other than that, you have to think about what's really happening, evapotranspiration. We've got an existing runway airstrip in a Res B zone that's going to be eliminated. It's a good thing. We're putting back some houses. We're going to have some pavement associated with it. So to me, there's like a push and a pull there. So they kind of equal out, and the meadow's pretty much staying intact. We're creating some new areas with meadow because the runway is going to be removed, and we'll be distributing it to a different location. But the grasses are going to kind of do the same thing. So at the end of the day, evapotranspiration doesn't change much. Whatever precipitation falls, it falls. We're trying to do a really good job of collecting it, getting it back to the ground, treating it, making it better. So that's a good thing on a quality side of it, but you don't get any sort of credit in the balance for that. So I think when you finally review all of this, you'll find, as we had stated through much of the other documentation, that we were doing all of this. We were doing good things. We had good housekeeping measures. We had good best management practices for stormwater. It's just now that you've got the backup for it, and you've got some citations from USGS or Soil Conservation Service that you might not have had before. The concerns of the neighbors has always been about water problems that were not necessarily associated with our site, but their sites. And the one thing that we were able to do with our design was to get less stormwater to go to Meadow Lane. We didn't want to abandon that. When we last met with you, and what Karina was referring to was, we didn't provide any additional documentation with our response package, because we were going to go about this and say, okay, you know what? we'll just meet the intent of the requirement to just not take more stormwater and put it out into the northwest corner of the site where there are no residences. There's nothing there but a detention basin that's become a wetland because when they built the runway, they built that basin. It did not exist until the runway got created. And it formed a wetland because it's in an isolated area. We were proposing to create a new wetland area associated with that. And we just feel strongly that that's where any additional stormwater that we can collect and discharge should go instead of out to Meadow Lane, which is an old municipal road system. It didn't even have a proper outlet for it. Went through private property before we got involved in the project, and we actually deeded, Mr. Poutre agreed to deed an easement to the town. So there was the ability to get that stormwater to where it landed. So we came, instead of going in and just taking what O'Neill's comments were and say, okay, we're just going to address it and just be engineers and say, okay, we're going to match and make everything look good. I'm coming back and saying, no, I'm not going to do that. We met with conservation. They liked the idea too. We're documenting everything and we're explaining why we should discharge more water to the northwest and less water to Meadow Lane. And that's to help the neighborhood and help the street. So we stuck with that. So that documentation's there. The drainage calculations that we presented back in March is that design. We had started a whole new project plan. Again, we submitted parts of that to respond to Fuss and O'Neill. And we did the drainage calculations, but we're going to pull back on that and go back to the previous one that we had done. So the last piece from the last meeting was the area calculation. And if there was just one exhibit, if I can just share the one exhibit from that set, Colleen, if you can bring it up, it would be the overall plan, because I can just show you through the color coding. It's just going to make it easier for the board to digest what we've submitted here. So it's going to be sheet 9 of 10. Would be the one I'd like to share if I can. Sorry, I should have warned you when I saw you this afternoon that I was going to want 9 of 10. Okay. So this basically is the flexible development plan. And the key in evaluating this is that there's this color coding that we have to establish what are our open space limits, and then how do we mathematically achieve the open space calculation that's critical to a flexible development plan. So we've got 4 different color codes there. If you zoom in just a little bit, the exhibit in the top right is not necessary. We have the 4 colors and I don't really want to, no, thank you. I don't know, it's really terrible how this can, when it graphically in a PDF, it tends to look a little bit better, but you can see there's a darker yellow and a lighter yellow. Maybe we should have a third color instead of the yellow, one dark and one light. But the dark yellow, if you will, with this, there's an extra stripe in there. That's going to be the open space that gets managed, be mowed. It's going to be open and green and functional. There'll be land adjacent to it that's open, green, and functional and usable, but there happens to be a utility under it. And that's what's shown in all of the condominium common space. It's not being counted in the area calculation. We try to identify it everywhere. So if there's a pipe under it, there's a 10-foot strip. It's not going to be counted, meaning that if someone has to manage that utility at a future date, for whatever the case may be, they can do that. They would have their footprint that they would operate within, and then they would restore it back. So it'd still be a green open space at the end of the day, but we're not trying to take credit for it mathematically in the equation. So you can see how those all zigzag through the areas. In the light yellow, that's going to always be open space. It's always going to be a meadow if you'll allow it to be mowed on an annual basis, which is what our recommendation is. Then there's the green spaces that are there. The green spaces are what we call wooded areas and natural areas. They're not going to be touched. They're not going to be managed and mowed. They're going to be just left alone to their own benefits. And they would be controlled by the Association of Homeowners here. But to the extent it would just be managing that land as your decision provides. So by taking all these different areas, taking out what doesn't count, we still mathematically meet it. It's just not as overwhelming a calculation as it was when we started. We still are substantially setting aside open space, developing a very small portion of this almost 9-acre property. It's a little over two plus acres of development area, and the rest of it's just open land. I think it's a good open space plan. It's been a good concept from the get-go. Instead of doing a conventional plan and just sprawling out these houses, we're in a tight area, and we kept the 2 single-family homes fronting on the street to marry up with the existing neighborhood, and then we put the duplex units in the back, so that they weren't really offending any abutter for that matter at this point. There are some other plan changes because there's obviously trying to harmonize all these different changes throughout all of the plan sheets, but the road pretty much stays the same as the design had before. Stormwater, there was a slight tweak to improve that, and again, with the discharge going out to the northwest. It's shown there. So like, as I said, we've got a wetland that's the old detention basin for the runway, and then we're expanding that with our rain garden / replicated wetland area. There is a isolated wetland that's associated with a runway that's some hydrophytic grasses. It's not much to speak of, but we're trying to create a more diversified wet area across the back end of the site. So I just want to give you an introduction tonight. Want to try to stay on course. FUS will obviously take the review. They'll read our assessments and give you back a recommendation. And I look forward to your support. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bemis. Ms. Houlihan.
Yeah, thank you for going through that, Mr. Bemis. We just got these tonight, so I haven't really had a chance. I'll certainly read. Thank you for doing all the hydrologic assessment. I think that was really important. I know that from prior conversations we had, that just doesn't fall within your court, was really around the homeowners association, and hearing from, I think David Williams had suggested that he would come back to the planning board with some commentary. So the hope that we would hear from someone representative from the neighborhood, just understanding their perspective on that easement. And then that's the only thing that I think I'm waiting for. And then obviously the people who go through this that have the engineering qualifications. So thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Maria.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that, because last meeting, I think, with the resident, Mr. Williams, there was a discussion about a pipe that has some kind of a sheath or something. I thought it was proposed to him, and I know he's an engineer. And I was wondering if you followed up with him on that, or if he's had any follow-up, or.
No direct, but I'll reach out to him definitely, because I want to be on the same page when it comes to being able to protect the utility. I was going to put a sleeve in. Yeah, that's what it's
Sleeve.
for. Yep, it's a sleeve so that they can take care of their utility at a future date if need be. So we would do that. Sure.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
my,
I'll commit to that and have that before the next meeting.
thank you, appreciate that.
Ms. Braccio.
Good evening. Thank you both for coming. Again, as Marty said, I haven't really had a chance to go through the plans, but I did have a couple questions. I actually went to the site, so I actually just have a couple questions on, if you leave 9 up, because my questions are relative to that.
Okay.
Excuse me. On the left-hand side, the common open space, I know that the gentleman that lives in the house, the McGovern family
Mm.
wanted that mowed back because of his dog and whatnot, but that's like a quarter of an acre.
It's not a lot of space. It's what he had asked for and what we did. If you look there, so we can separate those spaces so they're clear, is we agreed to put a split rail fence
Mhm.
right behind that. So if you look at between the dark yellow and the light yellow, you see a split rail fence.
Yep.
So that it can be easily identified. We're just trying to accommodate, as we have throughout this process, requests from the neighbors. His request was just, can you give me a little bit of a buffer zone there? Because, you saw the letter, I believe, I
Yep.
think, that he said that, he turned his back for 1 minute to go inside for a soda and came out and there were 3 coyotes around his dog. And so he asked if we could give him a little bit of a buffer space. And where it's common open space, it meets all the open space guidelines. I thought that that would be something that would accommodate him, keep him comfortable. And that's what the letter he had sent and how we tried to accommodate it while still staying within the guidelines.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I guess my concern is it becomes lawn. It becomes an extension of his lawn, basically. And I'm not sure that in my mind, it meets the definition of open space. And when we initially talked about it, it was, just, smaller area. But now when I look at it, it's actually a quarter of an acre. It's
He doesn't own that space.
correct,
we
but it's
own it.
maintained. It's basically extending his lawn though. In a
mean-
sense, Bill, so again, I'm just sharing
Yep.
some initial thoughts. I mean, it's a beautiful piece of property.
Mhm.
And I just wondered around, the 2 houses, the Dumont and the Bree.
Mhm.
So why is there going to be, maintained lawn? Because there's a fence there.
The only
just curious.
purpose was if we ever had to, and this was probably trying to take this to a higher level, but if we had to get back there for the purpose of any maintenance,
Okay.
while we do have an easement to go through their property and through their fences.
Yep.
The theory was, let's do this. We're not going to disturb their fences. We'll go around the back end, we'll maintain it, and the split rail fence, it's not, 15 feet?
Yeah.
It's not wide. It's the only purpose was if we have to go back there, rather than going through their fences and so forth afterwards, let's try and keep away from, again, same thing. We're trying to keep all the neighbors in we've tried to listen to all their comments to the best of our ability.
No.
So that's the only purpose there.
And I appreciate that. And I will tell you, I think after being out there and seeing it, I was going to suggest a split rail fence. So I am more than pleased to see that on there. I think, it protects the open space. One question on the grass meadow. So topography wise, I'm assuming there's a line of mature trees right before the slope going down.
And some on the bottom, probably not as many on.
Right,
the
I'm
slope.
not so much concerned about the bottom, but are you planning on taking down that line of trees?
We're not touching trees.
Okay, so that whole line of trees, other than the little saplings, that if
There-
you will mow the meadow, you're taking those.
There
little
will be no
saplings down.
trees taken down.
Okay, because I mean, that actually gives a really nice buffer to.
It does, and if you're out there in the spring, they really light up because there's a lot of dogwoods and there's a
Yep.
lot of the white flowering trees that are out there, and it's actually very pretty.
Yeah, no, the meadow's very, very pretty. And I will just end by saying that I was astounded by the number of birds that we saw out there. Even a bird, I have no idea. I took a picture. I have no idea what it is. I've never seen this bird before in my life. So,
Sit on our back porch, and it's absolutely amazing.
yeah,
to
it was
watch.
beautiful. So those are really my only questions at this
Mhm.
time. And thank you for coming in. Appreciate
Of
it.
course.
So Karina, it would be, let me go back to that page. It's just along the back line
Mm-hmm.
of the common open space, like,
Yes, right where that, we're
that whole way there.
actually farther on the right.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, just to the right of that,
yeah, to the right.
out towards behind where we're building.
Right, there you go. Keep
yeah,
going that
Yeah,
way.
that way.
Yes. So there's pine trees, but
Yes.
it's a very nice little break. If
It
you're
is.
gonna be mowing the meadow once a year, it actually gives a nice little break with the tree line there. So, but again, thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, is just the mowing. I don't think it has to be a manicured lawn, but I think it wants to be a maintained area. So that would be another way that we could try to do this and get to a place that we're in common, because the septic system area, we'd want to maintain it, but we don't have to have it as a plush lawn.
Exactly right. He just doesn't want anything over the height of his dogs that can come out. So, I'm fine with, quarterly mowing or what, it doesn't need to be, I'm not going to be out there. It wouldn't be cost prohibitive to do that anyway.
Um, So I went out also with Ms. Braccio. The meadows, beautiful.
It's pretty land.
So many birds. So I think that's premium open space.
Mhm.
Lawn is not open space. It does not meet the definition of open space. Under the special permit, it says open space not preserved in its natural state shall be utilized for town recreation. And that's not town recreation. So lawn will not work for me. If coyotes are there, they're stalking the dog. They know that there's a dog there. And I had the same issue in my backyard. And guess what? I have a lawn. It's all lawn. And
That's
the
on.
the coyote was waiting there for my dog.
Yep.
They, they're
I
they're
asked him to
very
put that
they're
together
very
for me.
wily, like in the cartoon.
I asked him to put that together for the board and told him that it wasn't guaranteed, but he was welcome to put it in. So if the board says no, then the board says no.
Yeah,
I
so
gave my best effort. That's all I can do.
I think the split rail fence is a great idea, but along the whole common open space.
I'm fine with that.
Not,
That's if
the lawn doesn't work. Where the lawn is okay, where I'm okay with it is in the middle of the
and that's fine with me.
road there.
Again, I was just trying to answer the request that was being made by one of the homeowners in the area. If the board doesn't feel that that's appropriate, then that's your decision.
But I mean, if you mow that, then the coyotes will hide in the taller grass back where the lawn is mowed. And they can, I mean, if they're there, they're not just, it's not happenstance. They know there's a dog there that looks like a good meal.
I don't disagree with you.
So I think that maybe they want to put up a fence or make sure their dog's always on a leash or,
We have 2 dogs and we're going to have a fence around our yard. So
yeah. So I'm telling you, I know from experience, my dog almost became a meal and it was terrifying.
And like I said, I'm fine with whatever the board wants to do. He had made that request. He said, how do I do this? I said, well, one of the ways to do is to send a letter to the town planner, and that's what he had done.
Okay.
And so then now it's up to the board to make that decision one way or another, and I'm okay with whatever your decision is.
Yeah, it doesn't meet the code. So we had a draft open space covenant the last time. Has that been updated?
So there's a couple things, and can we go back to that plan for one quick second again, Colleen? So one of the things that, based on, again, the comments that were made, there is an easement that you'll see, that the paved area that we're not using as open space of 9,000 square feet, the purple area. There was a previous easement that was issued.
Yeah.
That number was significantly wider. It was 47 feet or something. That easement specifically states that it is not for parking. Nobody can park on that. There's no vehicles that can park on that. It is for access for number 30 to get to his house and for Carriage Hill to get to their system for repairs, or for the neighborhood to get for their repairs. But no parking on it. It's specifically for passing. I've come to an agreement with Mr. Ishkanian, who lives at 30 Meadow Lane, whereby we're going to reduce that easement to be the exact width that you see there. And part of there, and Colleen, could you blow that up for one quick second? Kind of down, all right, so can you see the little triangle? If you could come a little higher, let's see.
Other way.
No, the other way, a
Pull it
little
down.
bit more, pull it
Yeah.
down. There we go.
Oh,
Oh, well,
Well,
we're there.
It's underneath.
There you go, right there. See, if you can see the corner of Meadow and that there's a little triangle there. Part of his septic system was on our land without an easement. So we are granting him the easement to have his system that is there.
Oh, I see.
I had originally approached Mr. Williams with that, and his comment was, deal with Paul with that, which is exactly what we did. And I have that letter from Mr. Williams if you need me to provide it. But we went, and so what we have done is come to an agreement where we're going to give him an easement to that triangle. And in turn, we are reducing the easement that goes across so that now the easement states exactly what we're looking to exclude from the open space.
Yep.
See, go to, there you go, right there. So
Mimi, can I ask
So
a
the-
question?
Yeah, one sec. The easement, so the easement will then be reduced to 9,000 square feet?
That's
as
correct.
Shown on the plan? Okay.
that's correct.
Yes, Ms. Braccio.
Just on because we're both kind of talking about the same area behind McGovern. What if, can you shrink it down just a little bit, Colleen? What if that was part of the annually mowed meadow versus maintaining it as
That's,
the plan says lawn? Just so taking that piece that says common open space, Bill, on
yep,
the left-hand side and just making it part of the meadow, so it does get mowed once a
fine,
year.
fine with me.
So. yeah, I mean, what are your-
That's up to the board.
So if that just becomes meadow and just mowed annually, I'm actually okay with that. I just wanted to.
Oh, yeah. So I want all the yellow except for in the middle of the road
Okay,
And that's fine
to
too.
be
It-
meadow and have the split rail fence be along the abutting property.
Inclusive of that little 15-foot strip that goes around the back there of the people's houses, so we don't have to, I mean, I'm just trying to, if we had to go back there, not have to go through their fence.
You don't have.
We have an easement that goes through. You can see in their land,
Yeah,
there's an easement there.
yeah,
They have a fence on both sides.
right.
If we have to get to our septic system, the joint septic system, I'd like to go around that back end and have it better kept so we can do that. Just at 15 feet. It's not a lot of space. Alternatively, I could say, we've got to pull out their fence every time we turn around. I'm trying not to do that.
So what you're saying, you don't want, so I know there's a fence there, so it probably doesn't need a split rail fence right next to it.
Right, it
But-
wouldn't need it. I'm just saying, you know, obviously we can get to our septic system, but it would be easier if we maintain that better than once a year in case we had to get there. Because you do have to do regular mowing on the soil absorption system. So if I'm gonna get a mower that's gonna go across to the the soil absorption system,
So you're asking for like 10 feet mowed.
yeah, I think that's 15 feet, but it's just to bring a mower over. That's it.
So from where, so that whole big square over there too?
Which big
This?
square? No, I don't need that.
Okay.
If you're telling me that doesn't fit, then that doesn't fit.
I want the less lawn, the better, because it
Okay.
doesn't meet the code.
I'm fine. I just want, again, we're just trying to accommodate, everything you see that we've done here is to try to accommodate the neighbors.
Oh, I understand. I know it's very, it's very difficult. And I appreciate it. You guys have really done a good job in answering our requests too. And I know it's not easy. It's much easier sitting here than trying to build a flexible subdivision.
Are you concerned at mowing once a month? I mean, just because
So-
I don't see it needing to be a lot, but the septic area, we should keep some maintenance. over
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
That's-
So yeah, so once a month for that soil absorption system, which isn't
That's more than
included in the
fine.
open space, and then you said a 15-foot.
That 15 feet around to the, kind of the area that comes back that way to our loop road. And then probably, well, you gotta get to the loop road. Cause that's where that's just where the equipment would come through. We're not counting that as space anyway, cause it's purple, so that shouldn't be an impact.
Oh, so from just there to the beginning of the
Yes.
purple.
Because what I was gonna say is if we just define it, as the access strip, we can put a split rail fence and go up through it. I'm trying to be less is more sometimes.
Yep.
So if we were just kind of maintaining a strip, there's already a fence in the abutters yards. I don't want to put a parallel
No,
fence to. it.
no,
Well,
I
okay.
agree
Well,
with
it's
that.
the
They probably
same
don't want
thing.
that.
All right,
Yeah.
so then I would just say to you that if we could put some markers where the soil absorption system is, we could just kind of get less fancy here and we could go to the back of our neighbor there, Mr. Donahue was his name, the gentleman with the dog.
McGovern.
McGovern.
McGovern, yeah. So we can go back to a fence somewhere through there. So I just would
Okay.
like to suggest that. So we'll come up with something that
Yeah.
makes.
And then,
sense.
but then the split rail fence along the back of
That's
those
fine.
properties too.
I don't have a problem with that.
You
so
want
it
one at
doesn't-
the back at the north end of the property?
No, behind those houses, the houses that we'll build.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
there.
Absolutely, that has to be there.
Yep.
Yeah.
That way we know nobody's trying to
Yeah,
beat the system.
right.
So it's,
We'll get
it's
a-
just like a tail that comes off of our septic system. Well, I'm just thinking that's where we don't have to because we can go from the
I
purple.
was gonna say, I'll
Yeah.
distribute a sketch to you and maybe we could just do that ad hoc a little bit, just so everybody kind of weighs in and says,
Yeah.
it's going in the
So
right
it-
direction.
Well, what I pointed it to, is that
Yeah.
what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's-
So
that's
that-
fine. However, whatever makes you feel comfortable is what we'll do.
So there needs to be an open space covenant explaining, what the open space is, the meadow, how that's going to be
Mhm.
maintained. Then this little strip to get to the.
We
to the
provided a draft
septic.
of that originally, and I think that what was determined, I had spoken to Karina about it, and what we had done at the end was the obligation was to create the draft. And then once we had a complete decision, so we weren't drafting it and changing it and drafting it and changing it, then we would submit to you. So in other words, it would be conditioned upon your approved open space, definition. Or what do you call?
Draft that you submitted was very preliminary. And
It is.
because it was based on the 28 Boston Road, right? You took that kind of as a template.
We took that as a template and changed all the addresses and then,
And there were some numbers conflicting. So whatever you propose for your final plan, when you come in, whatever, it should reflect that
that's fine.
information. So
That's
that
fine.
it's not, accepted now, but there's conflicting square footage and things like that.
We just hadn't done that because little things like this
Yep.
can happen at every meeting. So we weren't
Yeah.
continuing
Towards
to,
the
to
end.
make.
So that mode portion needs to be referenced in there,
Yep.
so we know exactly what it was, the natural open space that
Yep.
isn't going to be touched, the meadow, which
Absolutely.
is mowed after I think August 1st is,
Yeah, usually it's once a year after August 1st.
yeah, so you don't mow over the grass nesting birds.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that, and then that easement.
We'll give you a
the
copy
whole
of the
dis-
easement that will be submitted.
In the other easement that
Yes,
one.
Yep.
Just the response of those that are the grantees of that easement, their thoughts on what you had proposed on the sleeve and to protect their interests.
Correct.
that's really, we don't even have to do the sleeve. We're doing that for their benefit. We don't,
Right.
we could just eliminate that whole thing and we take out that issue that anybody has, but we were trying to do it as a,
Understood. I,
an
and
assistant.
just to make sure that they,
they don't want it.
Also
That's great. It costs
understand
me
it.
less money.
So Mimi, are you looking for like a letter or something from the neighborhood?
I'd like
The easement holder?
something just to say that they're okay with the proposal for the that easement or that will protect our interests or something.
Yeah, I'll
along
say
those
that,
lines.
the plan that got submitted, we didn't draft anything on there, but we did talk about doing that. So I'll take that in. We'll make sure that something happens and get that documented, so you'll have it.
You
Okay,
mean the plan that came with the draft open space?
No, the
Declaration?
plans that the design plans that you
Easement
have
plan.
now, right, we did not call out a sleeve there,
Okay.
so.
okay.
But just to be clear, a letter of some kind of document that the feedback of the easement holders, they're on board with this. With,
Yeah, the homeowners
these are the-
association of Meadow Lane there, those
Yeah,
yeah.
frontage lots.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Again, they still have, it is still 12 feet wide. There are no vehicles that are greater than 12 feet in width. Their right is to pass, not park. It's right within the easement. So you don't need 47, we're not landing a 747, so.
yeah, well, this is this easement. There's
There's no, yeah, that's.
driving on that one.
No, nobody's driving on that.
that's the one we're talking about. that
Oh,
we
okay.
Want the abutter feedback on, the people who hold that easement,
Yes,
Yeah,
give some kind of positive
yeah, I'm sure that
reflection that
can't possibly be an issue.
in the other easement where the runway is to that other house, is that Calander's old house?
It is.
I thought so. It has a big plane painted on the.
He used to pull his plane
Yeah,
right in there. It's a
Yeah.
13-foot tall garage.
yeah, I
And he
saw that.
literally pull his, it looks like one of those glider kind of a.
Yeah.
And all the doors would go up. Yeah, it's pretty neat, actually.
Yeah, that's what we're thinking. We're like, this must have been Calander's house where he drove his plane right in. How convenient. And I think that, Karina, you had an email from an abutter.
I did get an email today that I didn't have a chance to forward. It's from, Kyle Demont, 20 Meadow Lane. You want me to just read it? quickly? Okay. Hi, Karina. Thanks for your ongoing help coordinating all the 26 Meadow Lane discussions. In anticipation of tonight's planning board meeting, is it possible to share the following with the planning board? So I forwarded this to the planning board as soon as it came in this afternoon. Dear members of Southborough Planning Board, I'm writing regarding the proposed development at 26 Meadow Lane. While I've attended prior sessions, I want to clarify that my recent absence should not be interpreted as a reduction in concern. Rather, it reflects two factors. First, uncertainty about the impact of continued community comment. In my conversations with the community members, the feeling has been that the planning board appears committed to approving the proposal. Second, there is a practical consideration of whether voicing continued opposition at this stage risks further straining the relationship between community members and the developer. That calculation is made more difficult by the erosion of trust between the developer and the neighborhood over time due to changing plans and discrepancies between verbal commitments and actual filings. Separately, I would appreciate clarification on the land within the proposed development that may be designated as open space. What does the designation entail? Is it subject to signage restrictions or public access requirements? Thank you for your time and continued consideration. To my part, I answered the second part. Thanks for your input. I forwarded to the planning board members. Regarding the open space proposed, the applicant will provide a declaration of restrictive covenant identifying the accepted open space restrictions once the boundaries are approved as part of the planning board's review. As for what the open space entails, please see the links below, and I gave them links to the definitions in the town code and under the major residential special permit section that talks about open space. And I didn't hear anything back. Well, we need an extension as well.
Okay, so I make a motion to continue the public hearing for 26 Meadow Lane Reservoir Meadows, major site plan approval. 26 Meadow Lane Reservoir Meadows, special permit, lower impact development. And 26 Meadow Lane Reservoir Meadows, special permit, major residential development, flexible development to 7:15 on June 23rd.
A second.
So this letter says 7:20.
Oh.
Is there
No, yeah, definitely. Sorry, 7:10.
7:10?
It says 7:20, so I'll just. We have a 7:05 though. Shh. You want 7:10 or 7:15?
So we're going to have a 7 o'clock, 10 Turnpike.
Yeah.
We're going to have a
with
7:05,
7:05.
250 Turnpike, and a 7:20, 26 Meadow Lane. So
I don't think that needs to be 7:20.
Yeah,
No,
it's either 10 or 15.
Make it 7:10.
Okay, so I meant to 7:10 PM on June 23rd.
Second as amended.
And we need the applicant to sign that extension.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
I make a motion to extend decision due dates for 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows for the MSPA, the SP Lid, and the SP MRD extension to June 27th, 2025.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Russia, yes.
Thank you.
Don't leave without your autograph.
It's just a
Can I
formal
say two?
extension.
Do you want to do these? Or
I gotta
leave
look
them?
at them first.
Okay.
We'll run them around and get them signed. That's all right, Peter. If I have a chance to look at them, I'll have them sign them tonight. Otherwise, I still have to get the decision. Thank you. And you made all those changes, Peter? Thank you, Peter, for that. We'll get that done.
So the next item on the agenda is a discussion item, 218 Turnpike Road, status and additional landscape changes. I'd asked that this be on the agenda tonight to get some feedback from the planning board. As some of you may remember, we had discussed this in August of last year. The proponent had come before us, hoping to not have to go through a formal site plan modification for some changes to their site. The planning board agreed with that and said that we wouldn't require a formal site plan modification, but they were required to certain changes or to submit certain things to the town planner before the building permit was signed off on. Had to do with lighting changes to ensure that they met our town code, because when they came before us, they did not have the complete photometric plan or the hardscape calculation. And then the landscaping to anything replaced to be all native species. And then it was a couple of weeks ago, we got an email from the proponents saying that they wanted to change what was approved in August. And they had met with the town planner. She was trying to help to understand what exactly those changes being requested were. And it turns out that there is more landscaping other than what we had approved that it has been removed and being replaced. So town planner, although it has been precedent in the past when there are changes to specific species that she can approve that, this seemed beyond that because they were requesting that the non-natives that they were taking out, they want to plant new, which we had agreed that all replacements would be native species. And there's a whole different area that,
Zoom out, Colin.
that was to be replanted that had not been approved. So the question is, where do we go from here? Are you Mr. Barry?
Yes,
So
yes, I
in-
am. Scott Berry,
Okay,
RH Long Motor Sales President.
okay. Is there anything that you would like to present to the board?
Well, I'm a car dealer. I'm not an expert in town government. I kind of pride myself being a logical and a fair businessman, and we've followed the rules for 98 years in Framingham and in the 20+ years we've been here in Southborough. It was my understanding that the plans that we agreed to, that if there was a species change, that was that's a minor change. Okay? So last week, when my landscaper, he came to meet with Karina, or she did, I should say. And I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened, but it didn't go as we'd hoped, for whatever reason. A woman? No, a woman. Oh, she called you. Okay. All right. In short, I'm simply trying to make a nicer looking hedge than what mountain laurels would provide. And I'll remind everybody that on my piece of property, if you're traveling westbound, you will never see the hedge in the front of the dealership. It's been used for a number of years, and my personal thought is used are just plain, they're blah, they're ugly, they don't flower. So let's try to do something a little different. Add some color, make something that has leaves more frequently than obviously pine trees or yews don't. So we presented the idea of mountain laurels, but the nursery and my landscaper said that, Scott, you're not going to be happy with this in a couple of years because the stems, the base of the mountain laurels, this hedge is only going to be about 2 feet high. I don't want to have a 3 or 4 foot high hedge because I want people to be able to drive into the lot and look into the car dealership and see what we think are beautiful cars. We want to have leaves on the bottom as a nice hedge basically from the ground up. So we asked if we could switch from mountain laurels to, they're called inkberries. I have the species name up on the Ilex glabra, whatever it is. It's a native species hedge or shrub that could be shaped into a hedge. And I had hoped to do that along the front of the dealership, in front of the windows. Now, coming down the hill, if you're traveling eastbound, you'll probably see that hedge for 1 to 2 seconds. Okay? So if we look at this, so I don't understand what the issue is with that part of the change. The other parts to my change, requested change, are to, so I'm not, so Karina, that was the original plan that I brought to you, right? And I'm having a hard time, does that say,
Can you, if you zoom out just a little bit, like, actually, this is okay. So, this is the original architectural landscape plan, kind of a combo showing the footprint. And the planning board
yeah, so we're gonna put,
had approved that these would be used along here. And here, and here, and that there were, trees, not
That's-
trees, The yews were replaced, that's right.
Right, the
With-
yews were
with the
replaced and they would
mountain
be, they would be put in with junipers,
Oh, junipers, right, I'm sorry.
correct?
So I think it's, hold on, we'll call up the original plan.
Yeah, if you need the original plan, that's what I had marked up.
Well, that's your markup.
That's my markup. That's,
That's the only thing we looked at when you came in. And then we looked at the old plan. Let me see if I can find it right here. Hold on, we have it. It's a matter of getting it. That's a little before that. Couple more. Keep going, keep going. We're gonna put it on the screen. It's the A1, this one right here. Yeah. Stick that. That's the,
Just a quick question as we're pulling this up.
Yep.
So the premise of the question here, was the work already done? Or is the request to do the work?
The request is to do the work, as far as I'm,
Okay, so nothing's been planted yet.
correct.
Okay,
but
Thank
things have
you.
been cut. There are some things that were removed.
Well, so
right,
all of
Per
the
the plan.
shrubs,
right here.
all of the shrubs have been removed. The area that we didn't anticipate where there was going to be a problem is right up there where she's circling.
They had to do siding all along.
Okay, so there were, in that small area, there is one tree in the back, up on the top, right there. That's an English oak. Because we didn't have to put new siding on there, we didn't have to do anything with that tree. The two trees in that area, although initially we had hoped that we were going to be able to keep those in there, when they get in there with their, these are big sheets of, I don't know, I guess they're aluminum or whatever they are. And they have to put a whole system up on the wall that goes from the base all the way up to the roof. They had to cut the trees down,
Like panels,
panels.
not siding like on a residential.
No, not, right, panels, right. They had to cut the trees down to get in there and do it the right way. I knew, so when I came in last week to talk to Karina, I knew I was going to have to replant those trees. So that's why I'm stuck. I don't understand why I'm here. I came in, yes, those trees got cut down. And I told her, I knew I was going to have to replant, and I was going to replant the same exact trees that we cut down.
So when you initially came, right, your email said you were going to put a different type of species along here. You were gonna do boxwood or something, and I don't think boxwood was native,
Well, we never put,
Then-
Boxwood never made the plan, though.
but they made the email. That was initially, that's where we started.
Okay.
And then when you came in, you said, oh, well, you want to put junipers there, right? And then you explained that as we were looking, and then I compared this to the old plan, when you said you were going to, you had to do something here. So I called up the original 2004 plan to see what was there, to see if it matched, because I haven't been to the site to see that, this corner. And it said there was a tree here and two trees there. But then you said that you had already cut them down. And I said, well, since they are plants that I thought, since they were plants that were already approved previously, I said, well, I'll convey that to the planning board. But then something went awry and you started to get impatient. And you said you wanted a response by that evening. And I said, well, I can't make that decision because this is a change to what all these things that were approved by the planning board. So that's why we're here, because I would agree, you know, the replacement here, if they're straight native species, is fine. For these, there's 4 trees here. And then these shrubs, but this is where the issue is.
So I'm asking, just to be clear, that in the front of my showroom, where it's all glass, that we not have to put mountain laurels in there. And we put in these, I guess, Ilex glabra, they're called an inkberry.
I don't
It's
think-
going to be a nicer hedge. Okay? It's going to be more work for my landscaper. It's going to be a nicer looking hedge long-term. No one's going to see it, but I'm going to see it. And my customer's going to see it when they pull into the lot. The other request that I made was we had initially asked to use gray birch trees around the property in replacing the English oaks. Talking to my landscaper, talking to the nursery, he's recommending that we don't use those. They're going to grow wide. The ones that are closer to the building will continuously need to become trimmed back, cut back, and it's just going to create more work for them. So I'm simply asking if we can go back to replant these English oak trees, which are the tall, skinny oak trees that don't go, whatever, 20 or 30 feet wide, because they're fairly close to the building. And I should also know, so there's several of those trees. There's one on the, well, there's,
Right here?
yep, so there's more, because if you look right there, or your cursor to the left, one right there,
Here.
one right there,
here,
one right there, one right there, there. Okay, and then we have to go back up to that spot there. The other spot to this that, again, the tree had to come down is if you take that cursor and go straight down, right there was not shrubs, but was another English oak tree that, again, because of the siding, that tree had to come down, and I know I need to replant a new one.
But you were proposing English oak.
English oak, which was there. They were there in the plans that you looked at from 2004,
But I can't approve that because it's not native.
and English oak's not native.
No,
Then how were they approved to start with?
That's in 2000.
that was in 2004. And, on the note on the plan that this board approved when we allowed you to not go through the full modification, says all replacement plants shall be straight native species.
So what is the difference between an English oak and a regular oak tree other than the shape? Because the leaves are exactly the same.
So the English oak is from Europe and portions of Asia. So it doesn't support the environment, the species as a native species would be. And the point of our landscaping bylaw is to try and mitigate the damage to the environment. And the point is that you had agreed to all native species, then you wanted to not plant native species. First, it was boxwoods, which are not native species. Then we wanted to change what was originally proposed. And then there's this additional section that has been modified that was not brought forth to us a year ago. But
That last section, pardon me, but we did not plan on having to cut those trees down.
okay,
I don't want to be here.
okay. And then the issue was that the town planner was trying to help to work through this to understand exactly what was being done and what you were asking for. And you started screaming at her.
I absolutely did not. Colleen, Colleen, were you there? Was I firm?
You
Yes.
raised your voice.
Was I firm? Yes. Did I yell at her? Absolutely
And
not.
threatened her to put signs up and down your property, replace the town planner. So that is unacceptable behavior.
Okay.
And I don't think town employees should have to put up with that. So I think the first mistake we made was not going through a full modification of the site plan.
Why?
Because has the photometric plan been submitted?
It's my understanding that the photometric issue has been resolved with everybody. That's my understanding. And
We didn't
Ms.
get,
Luttrell, I'll also make a point here that in my conversations with Mark Purple over this on multiple occasions, He sides with me.
So Mark Purple has no jurisdiction under site plan.
Okay.
So after we had bent over backwards trying to work with you, you immediately went to Mark Purple and the then chair of the select board and started bad-mouthing the town planner. Because she was asking you to provide the documents that in a public meeting, it's recorded, that you promised that you would provide.
So I'm not one that wants to sit here and argue with people, okay? I think we've been a really good neighbor to the community for over 20 years. As I drove down Route 9 this morning and I counted 14 for sale and for lease signs from 495 to my property.
So that means that you're not required to follow the code
Nope.
and you're not required,
They're not following
you're
it.
not required to uphold the
Why can't? why can't-
agreements that you made in August of
I
last year?
can't believe that we can't come to some kind of what, I can't believe that we're sitting here worried about, in all honesty, an English oak tree versus a traditional oak tree.
Why did you agree to plant all straight native species?
I told you I believe, coming in here tonight, that I thought a English oak is just a somehow grown differently, that it provides the same habitat for birds or whatever it may be.
Doesn't.
Okay.
Ms. Houlihan.
Mr. Barry, appreciate you coming in tonight. I stand behind my town planner. She cannot make, and she's not authorized to make decisions without the planning board approval. I would appreciate an apology from you to her publicly, because I don't think she should be belittled for doing her job and supporting the role as a town planner. We are an elected board. Mark Purple has no jurisdiction. He may be a town administrator, but he has no purview for planning board. We are elected officials. We are elected to uphold the law. You agreed and your company agreed on paper to provide a specific set of conditions. We are here to support that. I believe that we would all like a compromise. We would like you to be able to complete your project. But I do think that I will not tolerate behavior to people who are just trying to do their job and do the right thing for this town. I'll pause if you would like to make a comment before I proceed.
I don't disagree with what you said. Karina, I'm sorry if I upset you. I'm sorry if I was a little bit firm. I'm disappointed. I don't feel that I'm being treated the same as the other property owners up and down Route 9 in Southborough. We've got one place that's been dilapidated for 20 plus years, right across the street from me. My other neighbor has a truck sitting in the middle, halfway into the road, and the neighbor on the other side has what looks like a plywood sign up on Middle Road. And I've got the nicest looking dealership from Shrewsbury through Natick. And it's always been that way. We keep it neat, clean, do what we're supposed to do. We don't have abandoned cars there like a lot of places do. Doing what I'm supposed to do. I didn't cut down trees to cause problems for myself. I didn't want to cut down trees. I understand I had to replace them. I'm shocked that if those trees were up there still, that we would want to have all different types of trees. If that's really what you want, whatever, that's fine, whatever. But the shrub part, I mean, it's a shrub. If I feel that if I didn't come in and tell Karina that I cut down those 3 trees,
Thank you.
no one would have known until the next time up. I thought I was just doing the right thing. Say, hey, listen, I'm just going to replace those trees that I put on there. There's plenty of birds. The birds were poking holes in my building. living inside of a soffit up on the top. There's 20 plus holes. So I'm asking for people to make a logical, fair decision that allows me to move forward and finish my project and have the nicest, one of the nicest looking piece of properties on Route 9 in Southborough. There's a couple places up there that haven't been maintained in years. You get a car dealership across the street from me, he's changed hands 4 times. And he's got the flapping clown sign up is that what we want in Southborough? I don't think so. I don't know if that's code or not. I'm not doing it. Looks awful. Next place down, they don't cut their grass. And yeah, I get upset because I'm asking to change a shrub and no one can, I've got to come in here on a Monday night after working a 10-hour day, just like you. I just don't feel that I'm being treated the way I should be.
Thank you for your comments. I think it's very hard for us as a planning board because repeatedly, for many of your neighbors, they don't comply with the rules that we put forward, and we have to have these difficult conversations. You are not being treated differently. There are many contractors who have come in that don't do what they're supposed to do on their site plans. It's entirely frustrating for the planning board because we are basically not seen as an authoritative body, and yet we are an elective body with rules and regulations. So I think we both agree that there's an opportunity to move forward. Your property is beautiful. I completely agree. And I thank you for the support and for your for bringing the business to Southborough. And I thank you for having a belief to make it a beautiful place. I would like to support and make a decision so we can move forward. I don't want to be here talking about trees right now either. Thank you for letting us know about the trees. I think if we can all come to a compromise, but I do think it was just really important for us to say, none of us want to be treated. We live in an environment right now that anything goes and people are saying whatever they want to people, and it's not okay. And so I thank you for the apology. And I'm here to make this compromise and get this done and get you out the door so we can all move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Murray.
I happen to be reading a book called The Nature of Oaks. And it talks about oak trees in New England host 800 or 900 species. So I can see if you're not into trees, I can see how you would think an oak is just an oak. But an oak that's not native can host maybe sometimes 50 species. And I'm glad to hear you have birds, but I think they're in your soffits maybe because of your oak. I don't really know. But I thank you for coming in, and I sense your frustration. There's a couple of things I think that I just want to, I'm not going to reiterate. I appreciate what my colleagues have said. The first thing is when you have a problem with a board, you have to go back to the board. So I would appreciate, and I think, this is being taped, that anybody who's doing business with the planning board shouldn't really go to the select board or try to go around our head. That's just never a good move. I think this has to be documented. I'm looking at a plan online and I see, kind of some puffy areas in red, and I'm wondering, is that the proposal? Because I'm not sure if we've gotten something written from you in a proposal. Is that the, yeah, that is the proposal? Okay, so I just feel like we have to have this now documented. Aside from landscape, there was the issue about the lighting, right? And so, times change, right? And the bylaws get updated. And I don't know what community you live in, but hopefully you go to your town meeting and you see that every year they hold an annual town meeting, or maybe you elect a mayor, and there's updates to codes. And what we've tried to do in this community is try to retain the beautiful nature of Southborough. The reason people want to come and live here, and they want to come and shop here, and they want to come and stay here. And that has a lot to do with our trees, our stone walls, and also just the environment. This board has worked hard to create a dark sky initiative, and I wanted to ask whether your lighting complies with the dark sky initiative, which was passed now about 5 years ago, because I think that was also one of the issues. Maybe when you were putting the siding up, some of the lighting came down. I just want to make sure I remember. So what the initiative is, and Marnie is our sort of resident expert because she worked with the expert to, put the bylaw together. But, as you go down Route 9, and I do appreciate that you're checking out your neighbors, because we're all going down Route 9 and we're looking too. And we see not your I'm not talking about your property specifically, but there are many properties where the lights are left on at night, or they're super bright, or some of them are up in the sky. And there's nothing that we can do about those until a proponent comes in and decides they want to change their lighting, because you can't go back and make people change their trees and change their lighting. That's just not the way that any of these bylaws work. So that's the reason that, we didn't look at your plan and say, oh, that English oak, it was planted, right? But now that it's gone, we have to get with the times and, make sure that it follows our convention, which is a native species. And the same for the lighting. So I did want to ask you about the lighting, if it's been replaced yet on your building?
So the lighting, there's been no changes per se to the lighting. There was one light fixture on the, you gotta get my, no, right above the, in front of the showroom. Right, just to the right there, right where the hand is, just to the right. And a little, right, right where the thumb is. There was a light there that we had to take down because the new face of the dealership, they had to pour some a concrete slab to support the weight of the change of the facade. So our plan is to not replace that light.
Oh, not at all.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's been some back and forth in regards to the lighting. Which again, I'm asking for common sense here and to consider some things here.
Yeah.
At any given time, I'll have over $10 million worth of cars on the parking lot. The lights on the backside of my building are, the height of those units are below the ground level. Correct. We did not change those, but we're asking about lighting. So I know that that was an issue, that there was concerns about the back. Okay. Initially it was brought up.
Okay, so just so I understand, you have a light that was taken down because of the new structure, but that was never replaced. So
We're not going to put it back up.
Okay, and it's, okay. And none of the other fixtures were.
Correct.
They were taken down or something to put up the new.
Yeah, there
lighting?
was
I
one
think
on
they
the
were
left side.
upgraded to LEDs. weren't
They were upgraded. We did that
And
years
then there
ago.
were some poles that were relocated.
Correct.
mm,
So it was 6 poles. If you aren't
those
replacing
poles,
one, it'll be 5.
those poles have always been there.
So you were relocating something here and then you were removing here and here. So there were removed 2 light fixtures from this pole. And
Those are,
and
so-
removed, these were used to be quads right here. So your lighting person suggested to remove 2 of these 4 fixtures on these 2 in order to meet the light spread and the lumens. And then
Right.
I think the question was that we wanted proof after because your lighting guy didn't tell us what the lumens were of the existing lights plus the new lights to show the hardscape calc. So the follow-up was supposed to be, he was supposed to just demonstrate some kind of calculation that showed what the lumens are on the existing lights and the new lights to show the lumen calculation, the hardscape work.
so
That's what we were waiting for.
In the photometric to show that there's no light trespass.
And
We
to
didn't
show
get that
there's
either.
No light trespass, like the final.
okay. I have to revert back to, I'm a car guy. I'm a dumb car guy. I'm not a light expert. Okay.
Because my note said project
These-
electrical engineer clarify how he developed lumens per square foot for hardscape calc allocation. Provide readings from the Cooper, the 36 each Cooper lights versus the 7 no manufacturer lights. So there were 7 that you didn't know who the manufacturer was, but you assumed that they were all like that new light, the Cooper light, if I recall. And so we wanted confirmation the hardscape is correct by your lighting guy to just determine what the lumens were for the lights that you had no manufacturer information for. And then do the calculation to show you meet the outdoor illumination hardscape calculation for that zone. And, because I keep track like that, and so we were waiting for that. That, I think that was the one thing we were waiting for, because Marnie helped develop, was a big proponent in developing the outdoor illumination bylaw, so that was one of your comments during.
I don't know how to proceed right now, other than to simply ask the board. I cannot take down lights on that side of the building and provide a safe place to, one, display my cars and keep my customers' cars from having wheels stolen from them, which is an issue across the industry.
Yeah, I don't think we're asking you to do that. I think it was just literally a calculation.
Okay.
So if there's, like, I will have like a telephone conversation with
Okay.
somebody. And I can give you my telephone number and,
All right.
and we can figure that
part of it-
out.
I mean,
It's just really just making sure that you meet the new bylaws Ms. Demuria was mentioning, which was just one part of the fact that we did not do a site plan modification for you.
who should they call?
Me, Marnie Houlihan.
All right.
And I'll give you my telephone number, not online.
Are you all set, Mr. Maria? Ms. Brascio?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Berry, for being here. I'm not going to dwell on some of the comments that have already been made. I appreciate the respectful conversation tonight. I appreciate what you had said to the town planner. I also acknowledge your frustration, and I understand that. The process isn't always as easy as we'd like. All I would like to say is, I would hope that we can resolve these issues tonight so you can leave here and we can all move forward and continue the good relationship we've had with your business. And it does bring, you're a very good neighbor. It brings a tremendous value to the town. And I do hope that that continues. But thank you for coming tonight. And again, hopefully we can get this resolved for you and before you leave. Thank you.
Mr. Belniak?
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. I'm not going to reiterate anything else my colleagues have said. The one question I suppose I have for you is, if there's a question about the tree you want to replace in the back, are you specifically, do you have a desire for an English oak, or do you just want something to replace it in kind? Because if you'd be happy with another native species, then I think we could reach an agreement. But if you're, I'm just not sure, I'm not clear if you're specifically.
I don't care what kind of tree goes in there.
Okay.
I'm asking that we not have to put the birch trees.
Mhm.
As I was told, that's probably not the best tree for a car dealership. They get weepy, the snow gets on them,
Sure.
they break, cars are underneath them. Not good,
So
right?
I suspect if you
oaks,
pick a different.
I just want
species,
something kind of thin. I mean, if I have to cut regular oaks back to make them not as wide, that's fine. But like in that corner of the building, I mean, that curbing is, I don't know, maybe it might be 8 feet. There's not a lot of room to put a tree there. And that's, I guess, why those trees were originally fine.
That's all I have. Thanks.
All right, so this is what the proposed changes were. So just the dogwood and the birch was what your team had proposed to replace those. That's not, that
So
didn't come from here.
I don't think any of this plan has any dogwood on, does it?
Yeah,
Birch. I don't remember seeing, oh, the dogwood, that's fine. That whole area is fine right there. Because that was all concrete. And that, when we talk about the lighting issues and whatnot, so that area was all concrete. It's going to be grass and shrubs and is it 1 or 2 dogwoods? I don't. 2 dogwoods.
Yeah, 2 dogwoods and 7 gray birch. So you're looking to replace, so it'd be 8. Is it 1 more tree in that back southwest corner?
Well, there's 2 trees that came down up there. And then there's the one right down below that's right there. There was an English oak in there. Yep. That one was not removed. It's still there. Yep. Oh, again, it's not the birch. I mean, if it has to be the birch, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it's not the end of the world.
So our street tree guidelines do have, what they call columnar trees, skinny trees. So anything in there.
Can Colleen pull it up? Yeah.
Are you gonna be, oh, you put it up there? All right.
Is this something that we can give to his landscaper? I don't know if you've received anything from us or if that would be helpful if we gave you the Go Botany list.
No, I have that. Well, I was on the site the other day,
Mhm.
and I don't know the species of trees.
So they do have a pin oak, a green pillar on there that's a narrow upright tree.
What's it called?
It's called, do you want the common name or the botanical name?
Whatever. I'm gonna go to Google.
Fastigate, Fastigiate, pin oak is the common name. And it's a cultivar to make it be skinny called green pillar. 14.
That looks like the same kind of tree that I had, to be honest with you. I'm looking at pictures. I don't know how accurate those pictures are, but I'm assuming. Those would be fine. I mean, that, to me, it looks the same as what I cut down.
Good.
Yeah. But it's a skinny one, so it's a hybrid. So I'd be okay with that. I mean, anything in the street guidelines, street tree guidelines. And then just replacing so there are also like rhododendrons and in other shrubs, do you want all of those to be inkberry or
No, those are,
just?
no, the rhododendrons are fine. They'll be nice, mixed up in the color.
So just
The
the,
inkberries I
no.
want to have are just across the front of the showroom.
just to replace what was,
They
uh,
were used.
was proposed to be mountain laurel?
Correct.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
So that covers everything.
Well,
Pin-
almost. So what about the purple, it's called a purple leaf sand cherry tree. That was the other one that was removed in that island in the back, in the
In the back, right?
south, yeah, the back right corner. Is that a,
It was a purple leaf sand cherry,
yep, that's what it's called.
place removed sand cherry.
Oh, what was, so there were a couple of cherries that were part of the,
Approved?
the approved, yeah.
I think down in the bottom left corner.
So they say similar to the um, purple leaf sand cherry for a native Massachusetts is a choke cherry, a black cherry, or a pin cherry.
Doesn't matter to me.
I don't know what they look like. Oh, it looks like like a holly, like, doesn't it?
It's, is it called pin or pan cherry?
I don't know. Those things will drop and leave a mess. I don't think you want those. Black cherry. I guess because they all are cherry trees, they're gonna have little fruits.
They're gonna have cherries.
Yeah, I don't think you want those.
So you have.
They're in an
those-
area that's really not an issue.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it doesn't matter. It's,
Yeah, so there's several native cherries, so whatever is a native cherry is fine.
And I'm sure it's part of that book, right? Our guide, or is that just a tree guide?
So that's street trees, and I
street
don't know
trees.
if a cherry is a
So we'd have to
recommended.
just go to
street
Go
tree.
Botany.
Madam Chair, I have a question about protocol.
Sure.
So it sounds like the applicant is willing to look at our list to swap out non-native with something native. Would that require the applicant to come back in, or could that be achieved through like an
No.
email after he consults with the landscaper to say, pick from this list, not from that list?
Yeah, well, so a landscaper should
Good.
know what are native or not.
Right, okay. I think I understand the desire to not have to come back here again, and so you probably have to go back to your landscaper to work with them, and you're probably not going to make a decision tonight. So maybe you can, now that you understand which list to pull from,
and that's fine. Choke cherry, a pin cherry, it's one tree in that corner of the building. It's, if the cherries drop, it's fine. They'll be run over by cars.
One other question, Mimi?
And then that'll be, I'm sorry, one other, on that same spot. So then we would just put the junipers in there, just like I'm doing in the other spots to fill in, which is what's written in there in that plan there, in that picture.
We agreed.
The The junipers are okay.
Mhm.
The junipers. And
The junipers were approved on the changes made in August.
so, and I just want to point out, Scott, when you have your landscape architect, or you go, that Go Botany site, I know I told you GoBotany.com, it's, the
I-
one you picked that other list off is not the Go Botany either.
But I looked at that and that references the Go Botany.
In the context of that website, yeah.
Yeah,
Get it right.
if you want to look something up, it sends you to
You can
Native
forward it.
Plant Trust.
Yeah,
Is that Native Plant Trust is the place we're supposed to go to?
It has the key that you can put things in and look them up, and it tells you whether they're native or not.
we usually go to the Native Plant Trust Go Botany, which the Jewett guys did it before, when they gave me
Yeah,
these,
I
so they know
I
where to
need-
go. There's
yeah.
like 2 or 3 that come up, but the direct one, I can send you the link to it instead of just telling you that.
Mimi, can I ask a process question
Sure.
as well? So our hope is, I mean, we've given some options here. Can we take a position tonight that he can talk to his landscape person, whatever, so we can quickly get this done, that Karina has the authority to just sign off on these, and so he can move forward and the board can move forward as well?
Yeah. So the reason I thought it should come before the board, because Karina was trying to figure out what the changes were, and it got very contentious, and I don't think that she should have to go through that.
And so as long as they come back with the native species, I'll vet it with Amy. And say, okay.
just say,
If it's those, but if you change any species, I just have to make sure you're not changing anything.
You
You're
tell
gonna
me
go with what
tonight
we
what I
said.
have to do, and we're going to go buy shrubs tomorrow.
Okay, so you're clear on what's.
Yes.
now. Okay, you've got the notes.
So the last tree that we've been talking about, that cherry, so as long as that cherry tree, whatever is on the list, that's what we're going to buy. So General Motors is coming to look at this property, and these guys have projects going all over the country. So they book out and they hold money over my head. And if they don't pay me, then I just have to keep waiting for the money for no reason, and it's a lot of money.
That's why I want to make sure that you know what we're asking, so.
Yep. And so the inkberries, the inkberry that's fine, correct?
And the skinny pin oak.
Yep.
Pin oak.
That's fine.
And the junipers were already
The
approved.
junipers were already approved.
So you just get me something that. shows-
One tree. We got to talk about one tree. I'll send you an email tomorrow about the tree that we decide, the cherry tree. Huh? Well, do it now. Tell me whatever tree it is. It's fine. Whatever cherry tree you want is fine.
as long as it's native to New England. If you could just get your, whoever updated the landscape plan so it reflects what is being done, so we have some record of that. And also ask your contractors if they could send that hardscape calculation and the photometric plan that they had promised in August.
That's going to Marty, right?
Okay, so we have a path forward. We're all good.
That's basically just changing some notes on your plan, whatever it's supposed to be, and just sending that back.
Yeah, it may take her, well, she'll do it right away for me. She did the last one right away, so she'll do this one, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All set?
Thank you.
I'm all set? Thank you for your help.
Yep.
Thank you for your patience.
Have a nice night. And I'm sorry again, Rena.
Thank you.
Work it out.
See you in 20 years. right?
You won't be seeing me. Okay, the next item on the agenda. Planners report.
Okay. Should I do this? Maybe everyone can sign this covenant extension? I'm sure. Is that the one that says 5-5 on it? It does. We fixed it already. Colleen. The vote says 5-5 in the first one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean 5-0. on the
Yep,
first
yep,
one.
yep.
Okay. Plan is right. So, I'm gonna try and get performance evaluations done by Wednesday. I'm out Thursday, Friday, but they're due Wednesday. And I was hoping the planning board would, allow for one of the members just to be the coordinator of that. Just to give it the final view. Okay.
Marnie's done a great job on that before.
So I'm gonna try. I have 2 decisions to write and actually 3 decisions, so if we don't get it in, it just delays and we get a retro or whatever, but I'd like to get it in, but let's see what I can do. Then the open space monitoring contract for this year has been signed and they'll be out in the field in 2 weeks. Pauline's preparing notices to the property owners so they know that when Joe Orzel from Lucas Environmental comes out, who he is, so there's no big concerns.
And just so Alan knows what this entails, our subdivision regs require an open space set aside, also special permits for major residential or flexible require a subdivision set aside. And for the last, so the deed research project took any plan approvals that had open space and mapped it, so it's sort of on the GIS map. There are some errors, and there's a database that shows every project and all the approvals and all the plans and the lots that have open space. So for the last several years, we've had Lucas go out to these open space areas to just inspect them and make sure that they have been maintained in the condition in which they were approved.
Can I ask a question, Karina? I love when Lucas comes because it's very enlightening about the state of things and what they're finding when they go out in the field. It's a lot of work notifying the abutters, them coming out. They potentially speak to people who are in the yard, of course, allowed to do that. And then they write the report and they present it. Do we have any kind of feedback that we can, not feedback, but for the properties where there's violations, for example, do we send letters to those abutters to say you've been found in violation, or there's solid waste in your yard and it's in this open space and it's not really your yard, or something like that? Like, is there something more the board can do? Because I feel like we see it and maybe, I don't know, maybe we can act on it, and it's probably enlightening for the homeowner also, who may not, they might think that's their yard. Sometimes they build play sets and things like this. And I don't know if the board wants to take a position or something, but I'm just feeling like, possibly we could be a little bit more active.
Well, last year, just to quickly interject, that part of the scope of the project was Lucas Environmental came up with a process and a policy. If you look at the end of the report is, we have to get those up on the website too for easy access. But, they had recommended some ways to update the property owners and such. Right now, what's happening, because we've been pretty busy over the last year, that we didn't even get them to present until January or so of this year, and usually they do in September. Where was I going? I lost my train of thought. So this year, they're going out now, and what happens is, like, when a site plan comes in front of us, like 10 Turnpike, and we recognize they've been in one of the reports,
Yes.
I forwarded it to them so that they have to address that at that point, so they have an opportunity to address it. But there's been no real standard, here's the report, now we send it to these people. It's been like a back burner thing.
Right, and I actually forgot about that policy, and so maybe that's an action that we can take in the future to see if that's like.
Maybe
Site
on
council.
June 23rd, we
Maybe.
can look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I want to just point out to the board and to the public that when we had the proponent for Dairy Lane come by, I think that was our last meeting, I reached out to Karina to say, oh, I think that's one of the sites where there were some open space violations. And Karina did reach out and, spoke to your contact, and that was super helpful. But I also know that was the day of the board meeting, and you're running around and you're getting other, documents that are coming in for the matters that are before us, and it was like super bad timing on my part. So, but I do think that as we have proponents come before us, we should have a list of who's in violation, and we should just make sure, like, like we're looking and saying, are you are you keeping up with the lighting bylaw? Are you keeping up with these other things? And if there happens to be something on the open space side, I'd like to be able to track that so that we can, talk to them while they're here.
That was raised with Habitat when they were, when Dairy Farm Lane,
Yes.
when we extended their covenant.
Yes, that's correct. So we don't really have a real policy that we've adopted though, right? Can we maybe take a
Not
look
yet.
at the Lucas and then maybe?
Yeah.
see-
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a draft and,
On my notes for 623.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
You
Quickly.
may.
Seeing as Alan is new and we're just talking about this, can we forward him last year's plan so he has a better idea of what to expect when he looks at these and some of the forms we're talking about? Thank you.
Can I amend that request and send it to all of us again?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time real quick? Send the Lucas report,
Last year's,
FY 24 to planning. I had to archive some of those because the plans are so big. Yeah, but we keep it all on a flash drive. So if you do have to look back, we can just find it. We can borrow the flash drive. Okay, 250 Turnpike Road is still, for the 40B project, is in front of the ZBA on June 18th, as well as 120 Turnpike, the 40B regarding the easement and subdivision. I think they had to do some tweaking to the easements because they weren't wide enough or something for the utilities, for the 120, I think it was 120, one of those. MapLink is that program I haven't had a chance to review yet, but the building department is trying to, the IT department's trying to coordinate with the building department because they need to be in the loop for any kind of new apps.
I think, so that has zoning implications. So I think that the planning board should understand what that is also.
Yes, and I would like to understand, and I will, as soon as, we
And I mean that they had a presentation to Mark and Vanessa in the building commissioner.
Yes, and I was invited to that too, but that day when they had the meeting and I had an applicant come in and their appointment lasted longer. So I blew off that demo so I could finish the applicants.
But I would like the demo here.
Oh, okay, then I see what you're saying.
Would everyone on the board be interested in that? I would, in understanding what that is.
Okay. Do that. So I just sent a draft contract to, the GIS mapping folks who update, and they're, gave me a proposal to update the zoning map to put the MBTA Communities Overlay District on the zoning map and on the GIS mapping. So that's in the works. And, no, the downtown district's already done. Oh, yeah, this is for the MBTA.
That was like the, what do they call them? The shape forms that were given?
Shape files. yeah.
Shape files? Okay.
Shape files, and then also the zoning map itself. It's on different web pages.
So the overlays on there.
Can I ask about, I've asked about this like to other people outside the planning board, but the, part of the downtown district is in the National Historic Register or National Register of Historic Places. That's not zoning, but is that marked on our map in any way? There's always a question about which streets are included in that. That was really through the Historical Commission. Is that on our map? Look,
No,
okay.
no, there's a letter, and it's
Yeah.
usually like narrative. It may be at the town clerk's, but we have that historic
Right.
listing that stays with the town clerk, but it doesn't that was relatively new, and I say new, a couple years ago.
Yeah, there's some.
But I bet they could do it,
They could, yeah.
CAI, because they, remember when we were doing MBTA, they came up with all these maps for us that showed all the excluded land and
Yeah.
everything like in seconds and added it to the GIS.
MAPC as well. They were very helpful at the time when they gave us the multifamily locations and they came up with mapping.
Well, I do know if you're on the National Register, you're, I think, there's opportunities for grants and there could be some opportunity, for various different things. There could be some opportunity. I don't know, but,
The historic list.
Yeah,
All right, we'll
thank
put that on the to-do list.
Maybe if anyone knows anybody on the Historic Commission, they could see if they're interested in doing something about that.
I might know somebody.
Then we have Chestnut Hill subdivision is coming to nearing the end of their construction phase. So we're working on them. Fussin O'Neill has a couple more inspections to do, and then we'll do an as-built review. And then eventually, and DPW Director Bill Cundiff is working with me to make sure they meet all the criteria for a road that will become public. So that's on the horizon. Eventually, probably within about 6 to 8 months, they'll ask for road acceptance at some point once the as-bills are vetted. And then we are working on some potential bylaw updates for some of the industrial park area.
So
Yeah.
the Atlantic Management that has purchased some of the Dell properties, they have some projects in mind that they say that they may need zoning changes in order to accomplish. So Karina and I talked to their attorney and a planner that they had hired. I don't know if they work for the attorney too, and they wanted to know, like, what's the process? How do you submit? How the timeline? And I stressed sooner the better because the special town meeting's supposed to take place in November. The planning board never does zoning hearings in the summer because people feel as if we're trying to slip something by when no one's in town. So I was saying, get it before the planning board so we can have discussions before the summer, and then we'll open hearings at the end of August, so we have a few before November. And haven't heard anything back, but just so you know, that may be coming.
Just a quick question on that. Didn't we have a bylaw that was going to change some of the zoning? Going back to the whole gym situation and in the, like, where is that? Yeah.
Oh, the
that
IP
bylaw.
district
The IP
uses?
district
We didn't,
uses.
we can go back to
Yeah,
that.
I think we need to bring that back up because I still think we need to tackle that.
Yeah, and Lara asked me today if we would mind doing that zoning working group again, start it up again because there are some potential changes she wants to propose from the ZBA
Okay.
about multiple uses on a lot.
I write multiple.
I wouldn't mind joining that if there's opportunity, or maybe Alan as the new member, because he's got, your plate.
Rules of free time.
Your plate is getting filled, but I do think it's important that we pick that up, because I think the only reason we dropped it was because ADUs was kind of coming in and we just couldn't accommodate.
Well, we were running out of time
Yeah.
and you can't like force zoning,
Right.
like rush zoning, yeah. So we can, it's on my list for 6/23.
Yeah, and if you want to stay on it, that's totally fine. I'd be happy to help out if you need some help.
Just a question about that zoning working group. Is that just with boards and committee members in town, or is that also for the public to opine or learn about zoning?
It was an internal think tank made up of the building commissioner, the zoning board of appeals administrative assistant, Mimi and I, the former economic development coordinator, select board member Al Hamilton, and Marguerite Landry. Select.
Okay, that's a nice broad sort of selection. My only suggestion is that if there's some way, if we're starting this back up, to invite members of the public to even just listen in, but if not, participate, because in my experience or my observations and opinions from prior town meetings is people are either somewhat befuddled by zoning or it's just largely inaccessible. And I think a way to educate them would probably engender more support and more attendance at future meetings.
Yeah. Sorry?
Historical is up there on our map. Just an FYI. Where is that?
right here on the,
All those are different historicals. This is the town center,
see the, MHC
MHC.
historic inventory.
East Town Center.
It's these dots reflect, right? Is it these dots? No, those are easements.
Like, here
When
is-
we were doing MBTA, there were. Yeah, yeah, in the area of the MBTA station, we had historic properties marked here. You can look, they've added quite a bit. I don't know if it's just with the staff login to the GIS mapping.
No, I'm not logged in.
Okay, so it's a general public. Okay,
It's
so
it's under state maps.
under the state maps?
Yeah.
Okay. We can help you find it if you want to look for it. The Southborough Community Preservation Committee has, a public, annual public forum Wednesday, June 18th at 7 PM at the Public Safety Building. Via, Zoom is available as well. Learn
Nice,
about-
nice flyer, by the way.
I wish I could take credit. We have some really talented people on our committee, so I just said, could you change the date?
And, I know that, Open Space Preservation Commission Chair Freddie Gillespie had asked that at some meeting in the future, we talk about the native species aspect again in general. I think that, this was an email early in May. It had information about resources and where to look. I have to read it thoroughly again, but, she had provided comments on pesticides and Go Botany notes, et cetera. I think back on May 12th, Open Space Preservation adopted native plant standards, and it's these standards she wanted to discuss. So I'll forward it. I think I forwarded it to everybody already, but I can forward it again. It's kind of a continuous quest in the works, but it's helpful because we might avoid some of these types of issues if we have like a go-to page that says, here are the links. Okay. And then we just have meeting minutes.
Thanks, Karina.
You're welcome.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from April 28th, 2025.
I second.
With discussion. Line 83. After the word have, CCT of 5,000 K. It's an,
CT.
yeah, the
Correlated color. temperature.
correlated color temperature. It sounded like we were looking for a payoff or something. 5,000 K. In line 84, after bylaws, allowed CCT up to 3,000 K. And then on 84 also before the 219,315 K, the hardscape calculation allows 219,315 lumen on 84.
Oh, okay. So here it says they are allowed CCT up to 500K,
5,000.
5,000K, okay. And then on 84 it was,
Allowed CCT up to 3,000. And then it continued that as if with the hardscape calculation, it was unclear. So just before that 219,315, the hardscape calculation allows that 219,315 lumen, but they are coming in at 315,000.
Hardscape calculation.
Yeah,
Should say they're allowed hardscape calculation. instead
Yeah,
of that big number.
yeah.
I still don't get where the 3,000 K is. Do you understand where that is?
It's just the
Oh,
CCT.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
the,
adding
The
CCT.
3,000 because,
that's what our bylaw allows up.
yeah,
Well,
putting it at 315, but we only allow 3.
well, those are two different things,
Oh.
which is, that's the correction I'm trying to make in the
Yeah.
minutes.
So if we look here, this is gonna say, said that, round
So
up
I
to.
would put here,
Sorry.
before this, the hardscape calculation allows
Yep. This, yep,
this,
yep,
but they are coming in at.
yes, and then you said something about 3,000.
That was
I know
earlier.
it's 5,000, said that they allow up to 5,000 K CCT as indicated on plan.
Oh,
Because
so,
this is 10 Turnpike. They are allowed hardscape of this, but they're coming in at that.
no, they're not. So, Ms. Houlihan said they cannot have 5,000. And I put,
Oh,
cannot have CCT of 5,000
they cannot, yeah, they cannot, okay.
because the town bylaws
Yep, allow up to 3,000.
allow up to 3,000.
Got it.
Any more annoying people on the board?
I can't believe I didn't catch that.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Melniak abstain.
I make a motion to approve the May 12th, 2025 meeting minutes with discussion.
A second.
Just a slight change, line 14, Ms. Houlihan read a poem versus a poet.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that one.
Very good, thank you.
Line 46. Substitute and.
What's on page, what was page? Number 46, substitute.
This project on industrial.
Decision will cannot deny approval of this
This project on industrial.
this project of an industrial par, on.
On an industrial parcel. Not that because it's an industrial parcel, we can't deny it.
Right.
It's the project. And then on line 111, after have been, the word already.
Installed.
And then on line 151, it says Stein and Latrell, no, but then the tally says yes, 5.
Three.
I didn't go back and watch the minutes, so I don't know if I said no or yes.
Check this, verify. Yep, is that it?
That's all I got. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Melniak abstain.
I make a motion to adjourn this evening.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any long discussion?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Melniak, yes.
Congratulations on your first meeting.
Thank you.